There's a lot of claims coming from this area. Apparitions, footsteps,
Did you hear that?
They say everything has its story. Anime especially is a visual medium full of unforgettable tales and immensely satisfying spectacles. Content creators and critics alike flock to dissect, review, critique, and transform Japanese animation as a whole. However, there seems to be a subset of anime that goes mostly overlooked. Thousands of untold stories waiting to be found, memorable characters to be immortalized, and animation just begging to be seen. The genre of hentai, otherwise known as pornographic anime, seems to have a singular purpose: to arouse. But I'm not here to talk about the sexual exchanges that occur in any given episode. Instead, we'll be looking at these series at a more fundamental level, taking a look at the story, characters, animation, soundtrack, plot progression, pacing, etc. None of that annoying sex stuff to get in our way and cloud our judgment. So join me, Anigami, the guy that takes the fun out of literally everything, as we dive into today's satirical critique of animated pornographic material. I hope you're not afraid of spooky ghosts or scares, because things are gonna get pretty paranormal with Toshi Densetsu, otherwise known as that one ghost lolly hentai. Toshi Densetsu opens on a girl waiting until sunset in an empty classroom, eagerly waiting in anticipation to give a love letter she wrote to a boy that she likes. But I'm no stranger to Japanese cartoons and know for a fact that love letters are usually placed in a shoe locker or in the recipient's desk, and that the letter usually states a meeting spot and time to confess your love. So not sure why she skipped a few steps here. I suppose it's her fault for what happens after. You know a series is going to be good when it not only starts with just full-on lolly rape, but the girl literally dies afterwards. Really charming stuff, really setting the pace for a nice, lighthearted series. Years later, insert generic protagonist here, encounters the now ghostified girl occupying a bathroom as her living space. The episode never seems to address the intricacies of her newly ghostly body, how it operates, limitations, and how she was able to gather all of the furniture and get cable television in a school's bathroom. And yes, I know for a fact it's cable TV, because clearly there is no DVD player or game console anywhere in this shot, so don't try to debate me. So anyway, if this girl is able to have sex with a guy she actually wants to have sex with, she can pass on, or so she thinks. Sure, whatever, fine, we'll go with it. Oh, this guy's a teacher? Yeah, okay, fine, that's all fine. That cable television, on the other hand, forget about it. Nope, you lost me, hentai, you just lost me. So if you're wondering how the whole ghost thing plays out into a rather long, complex sex scene that changes locations numerous of times, well, Ghost Girl Hana-chan is able to use something called spectral binding to, well, bind the supposed teacher as she gets energy from somewhere on this boy's body. I'm not going to spoil exactly where she gets the energy from. You could probably guess. She's also able to pretty much age her body at will. It's a pretty clever way to not only get your ghost lolly girl, but also your ghost nurse infirmary rape woman all in the same episode, because who doesn't need one of those, right? The episode closes on a fake out of Hana going to heaven, only instead to break her binds to the school and pretty much promise to sex our teacher protagonist forever. Nice. Cool, so second episode, I'm honestly pretty excited to see where this show will take the relationship and begin to explore the girl's powers a bit more and have some fun locations for intercourse. Like, my guess is that during a lesson he's teaching and the ghost girl is going to do something to him, but of course none of the students can see her, so they'll think he's just a big old pervert acting strangely in the middle of class. I honestly can't wait. Wait, who are these guys? What? What? So yeah, this series is episodic, but hey, the second episode was actually pretty clever. Pretty much ask, hey, what if the girl from The Ring didn't make you die, and instead you could have sex with her? It's pretty simple and doesn't go anywhere too interesting, but I do like the concept of the series almost spoofing or making reference to popular horror films and asking the question, what if you could fuck them? After a rather personal introduction, leave that right there. We get a more formal one and learn that this girl's name is Sadako and is the human form of many different ghosts and curses. Also, here is quite possibly the most clever and funny line of dialogue I've seen in not only hentai, but recent anime as well.
説明しますと ビデオメディアの衰退に伴い、私たち呪いのビデオの存在は忘れられてしまいました。しかも最近じゃ映像加工技術が発達して呪いのビデオなんて全く作り物だったなんて言われてしまう始末。
It's just perfect. Oh yeah, this guy doesn't have pants on the entire time. Just figured I would draw attention to that. So in order for the cursed video to be more relevant in a modern age and reach a wider audience, Sadako suggests refilming the video as a porno. It's honestly extremely clever, and of course with a little bit of power she has left and knowing the guy's browsing history, she turns herself into the ideal form. You guessed it, another lolly. Sure. Why not? There's also a later reveal of Sadako having sex with all of the men that eventually watched said porno floating around, and our male university student being recognized as the guy in said porno, but that just about wraps up episode 2. The third episode pretty much says, what if we just made the guy underage instead of the girl? That'll really mix things up. So yeah, cute little Shota boy overhears rumors of this super tall woman named Hachatsuku, who only seems to appear in front of men, well, technically boys, I suppose. On his way home from school, not believing the story, encounters this very woman in an alleyway doing some rather inappropriate alleyway shenanigans. After fleeing from the scene, Hahashaku follows the boy to his second floor room, and his curiosity gets the best of him and he essentially summons her. You guessed it, she's some kind of ghostly apparition as well, and then they have sex. That's about it. The episode closes on a bit of lore explaining that a long time ago, a so-called god was brought boys that reached a certain age to her in order to become men, but apparently over time she was forgotten about, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Like, how do you forget about the giant god girl you brought your village children to like multiple times a month to be sexualized and used in order to become men and bring prosperity to the village? But yeah, that god was Hashashu, and she now enjoys freedom and wanders around to find new boys. Pretty weak episode, although I assume some may find interest in the size disparity between the two leads makes for some unique animation and some interesting shots, which is, I guess, a plus. The fourth and final episode opens on a girl named Mary, a lolly demon who appears before virgin males and leads them to the promised land. Yep, already off to a great start. She appears behind our virgin male, who she addresses as Sheepson in a not-so-subtle reference to the 19th century story Mary Had a Little Lamb. Easily one of my top 5 anime. Again, just like episode 3, this just falls so short to me. The build-up is almost non-existent, and the sex scene follows just about the same flow as the others, and just like the first 2 episodes, the girl is able to age parts of her body because why not? While the ending has a bit of interesting dialogue explaining that the promised land is not really a place like heaven, but instead a simple feeling where it happens to be that the sexual act itself and the aftermath was said proverbial promised land. This line is quickly blurted out in an extremely brief 10-second breather right after the intercourse scene and right before the credits. Every episode before has had more room to actually wrap everything up, and it's a shame that the one episode that doesn't happens just to be the last episode of the series. Just a lousy way to end. So, what did I think of Toshi Densetsu? While I only really liked half this series, I was honestly surprised that I liked as much as I did. Usually when a hentai like this immediately starts off with lolly rape murder, it sets the bar for a series that is just all about disgusting and off-putting sex scenes and very little interesting story stuff or clever writing in between. While the last 2 episodes are pretty much just straight up 14-minute extended sex scenes, and despite them being somewhat diverse and visually capable, I found myself more interested in the earlier stuff. The fun writing, unique ways to show off ghost lolly pantsu, and what I can now classify as honest charm. After finishing the second episode, my expectations were extremely high for what they would do next. I honestly thought each episode would spoof or modernize classic horror and paranormal stereotypes in some form. I was pretty shocked to have such a high expectation for a hentai, but the fact that said hentai even made me wonder what clever stuff was next despite not delivering still says quite a bit about the earlier quality. Visually speaking, character designs were below average, especially the male lead in the second episode looked more of a weird blob than an actual thought-out character, but a lot of the female designs looked pretty nice, and from an audio standpoint, voice acting was surprisingly good, with my personal favorite being the girl from the VHS tape, Sadako, who was just bursting with personality and charm relative to your average hentai, of course. So would I recommend Toshi Densetsu? Well, I suppose it would depend. If you're looking for a hentai with a rather high sex to plot ratio, especially in the later half, then you probably enjoy it. The animation for those scenes are above average, and I'm sure the paranormal aspect of changing and aging bodies mid-act will interest some. But if you're like me and only watch and review hentai for intrigue and entertainment, I'd say check out the first 2 episodes. They are extremely clever in comparison to most, and even have some fun back and forth dialogue mid-act, which was nice to see. There are a bunch of actually funny throwaway lines of dialogue throughout the entire series, and some other clever stuff I didn't show in this video, so don't feel like you've seen everything that's worth to be seen in the hentai Toshi Densetsu. Hey, it's Anigami, and when I'm not trying to get a sneak peek on some cute ghost girl lolly pantsu, I make videos here on YouTube, so feel free to stick around a bit and check some out. Appreciate the support.